Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Sander, and today I'm going to be finishing the two-part series of recapping every single team in the NHL. And today we're doing every single team that made the playoffs. So that would be those 16 teams. And I know last video I really talked about team stats during the regular season and stuff like that. But since I want to mention both playoffs and regular season, I'm not going to do that. I'm more so going to be focusing on the playoffs more than the regular season, I'd say. And this is sort of like the video I made last year as the Road to the Cup video. But with that, let's jump right into it. Starting off with the first round exits, we have the St. Louis Blues, and they were just destroyed by a superior Avs team. There's really not much to say here. They did get decent goaltending from Jordan Binnington, at least during the playoffs, which is the only reason why the series stayed competitive. But they were swept. Not much to say here, so I won't talk about them a whole ton. Moving on to the Minnesota Wild, they did really well. They had a great season, finished third in the West Division, which I must say wasn't a very good one, but it was very top heavy. You had Colorado and Vegas, and if not those two teams, they could have been even higher. But they pushed Vegas to 7. Kirill Kaprizov emerges as a star. Joel Eriksson really improved. Just a great year for Minnesota, and they did buy out Parise and Suter, so they have a lot more cap space now. If they can get Kaprizov resigned, then really bright future for Minnesota. Now moving on, we have the Edmonton Oilers, and I just don't know what happened there. They got McDavid, Draisaitl, Tyson Barrie, Darnell Nurse, Mike Smith in goal. They were supposed to at least win a round against the Jets. I don't know what happened there, but just the Jets were better than them, and they got swept. There's just no excuse here, and I really don't know what's next for the Oilers. And now moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to be honest, I was cheering for them. All year, I watched pretty much all of their games. I was really hoping that this was the year, and they disappointed once again. What was the excuse this year? Before, they didn't have a good defense, or they didn't have enough star forwards. What's the excuse now? You got a good offense, good defense. Goaltending was actually pretty good as well. Jack Campbell was really good in that series against Montreal. What happened? They lack killer instinct. And I think that's their problem, but how do you address that? It has to be between the players thing. It has to be inside the locker room. I don't know how you fix the problems. They might just be a cursed franchise at this point. I don't know. They're probably losing Zach Hyman in the offseason and Frederik Andersen, even though that's not a huge loss for them at this point. I just don't know what the Leafs do from now on. Hopefully they can be better next year. Now moving on, my favorite team, the Washington Capitals. I don't know what happened against the Bruins as well. Even though I think the Bruins were the favorite, could you have at least tried some more? I mean, Ovechkin was very visible, but on the score sheet, he wasn't as productive as I would hope. But just where did their defense go? Their defense was pretty bad in that series, I'd say, from watching the games. Their goaltending situation, Vanacek injured in Game 1. They were forced to rely on Craig Anderson, and then Samsonov, who was just on the COVID protocol, comes back, has that horrible giveaway, and I believe Game 2 or Game 3 might have been. I think it was Game 3, but I'm not sure which one. But anyway, that cost them that game, and then they just fell apart after that. I don't know where Washington goes next year. I don't think Ovi's going anywhere. I think he's just waiting to sign an extension after the expansion draft. But if he leaves, then Washington's done. If their best player of all time leaves, I don't know where they go from here. But I'm probably overreacting. He is most likely not going anywhere. But let's just see what they can do next year. And now moving on, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins. A lot of people predicted them to win against the Islanders. However, I knew that the Islanders were a better team. They swept them, I believe, in 2019, 2 years ago. And I thought they weren't going to sweep them now, but they still ended up winning, just like I predicted. It was in 6 games. Tristan Jarry, I think, really let them down. It was goaltending this year. There were memes all over the internet where it's Tristan Jarry's glove side can't stop anything. But I think that if they got better goaltending, They could have won the series, but I just don't know. And I don't know what the future holds for them as well. And now moving on, we have the Florida Panthers. I think they were just, beaten by a far better team in Tampa Bay. And there's really no shame in that. Tampa Bay was the better team. However, I am glad that they were able to make it to the playoffs, finally give their fans something to cheer for. I think they'll be really good next year. I think they will make the playoffs, and, we'll see if they can do better. And now we're going to move on to the Nashville Predators, and they pushed the series with Carolina far further than I thought. I think that they were, without a doubt, the worst team in that series, but still, they pushed it to 6. They did pretty well. Jesse Saros emerged as a pretty good goalie for them. Not sure what the future holds for them because they're sort of on the decline, but I think they can surprise some people next year. Now we're going to move on to round 2, first being the Colorado Avalanche. I told people not to overrate this team. A lot of people were picking them to win the Stanley Cup. I didn't think so. I don't think they're quite ready yet, but they did lose to a pretty good team in Vegas. However, their defense in that series, I just don't know where it went. It wasn't as good as in the regular season, and they weren't getting bailout performances from their goalies. Philip Grubauer, they only had one. Not sure why I said goalies. But yeah, I hope they're better next year. I expect them to make it to at least the third round, but I think they're still, favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Now we're going to move on to the Winnipeg Jets, and while it was a pretty magical run against the Oilers, Montreal was the better team in that series, and I didn't expect a sweep, but could you make it at least more interesting? I don't know. I expected a little bit more from the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm pretty disappointed that they got swept. Now moving on, we have the Boston Bruins, and similarly to the Penguins, I knew that they weren't going to beat the Islanders, even though they were supposedly the favorite in the series. I knew the Islanders were the better team, and once again, I turned out right. But I don't know. I think coaching was sort of just off there. Bruce Cassidy obviously making those comments about the Islanders being the New York Saints, giving the refs giving them all of the calls. I don't think that was the reason. I think both teams played a physical series. I think while reffing wasn't perfect, it was actually pretty decent in my opinion. But the Bruins lost because the Islanders were the better team and not because of the refs, I don't think. They have Krejci, Hall, and Rask as UFAs, who they both need to re-sign. Don't really know if they can bring back all of them. I'm hoping they can at least bring back Rask and maybe Hall or Krejci, but we'll see what the Bruins can do next year. Now moving on to the Carolina Hurricanes, and similarly to the Panthers, there's no shame in losing to a good team in Tampa Bay. However, I am waiting for them to make this big splash. They've always been close, but I just can't wait till they get over the hump. They're a super fun team to watch. They got a really good performance from goaltending this year. Peter Mrazek, Alex Nedeljkovic, and I'm just really looking forward to watching them in the future. Now, moving on, we have the Vegas Golden Knights, which start off the third round. And for the, I think, second or third year now, what happened? They were better than Montreal. I'm not sure what went wrong. Montreal had their head coach out for most of the series. Why couldn't Vegas win? I'm really confused on that part. They're starting to look like they might be pretty big chokers, but I won't accuse them of anything now. They're still a pretty new team in the NHL, and to think that they've already had so much success, I think that's pretty crazy. They're still an extremely successful franchise, and I won't take that away from them, but next year, they just have to be more consistent, I think. And now the other team being the New York Islanders, and they had this great run. They beat Pittsburgh, beat Boston, but they were not as good as Tampa Bay, I'd say. In this series as well, the better team won. Game 7, Tampa Bay beat them at their own game. They won 1-0 on a shorthanded goal. But I think the Islanders are sort of beginning to decline. They're going to lose a good player in the expansion draft because their forward core is just so deep. and their defense is also pretty good. When it comes to goaltending, I'm also not sure. They have really two good goalies in Sorokin and Varlamov. I'm not sure if Sorokin's exempt or not, but I think he might be. But if he isn't, then they might be losing a good goalie. But anyway, still pretty good run this year. Lost again in the third round to Tampa Bay. Really don't know what they can do next year. And now we're going to move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll start with the losing team, the Montreal Canadiens. They had a great run, and I'm not going to take away anything from them. They shouldn't have made it here, but they did because they were such a good team. Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Josh Anderson, Tyler Toffoli, Brendan Gallagher, Carey Price in goal. On defense, Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie, Ben Sherratt. Just so many great weapons on this team. They were going to be denied against Tampa Bay, however. Tampa was just a better team, and like I said, there's no shame to losing to a good team, but nonetheless, Cinderella run, it just had to end, unfortunately. And now we're going to move on to the winners, the back-to-back champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. I already talked so much about this team in my finals recap videos, so I'll keep it short and simple here. They just had way too many good players to lose. They haven't lost a playoff series now in 2 years. Yeah, last time they lost a playoff series was when they got swept by Columbus in 2019. But they were just so good, and I'd argue they were even better in these playoffs than they were in last year's. But like I said, just an incredible team. They are probably going to lose a ton of good players this year, not only to the Seattle expansion draft, but in free agency. They just can't afford to keep all of their players. They won't put Kucherov on the LTIR again, although that would be quite funny. But the better team this year won, and I think this basically puts an end to the 2021 NHL season. Heck of a year. I'm surprised they pulled it off with all of the COVID protocols and all the restrictions and the travel. It's amazing that they got the season done and that a Stanley Cup champion has been awarded. What a year. Incredible. And I quickly also want to touch on this channel. I will be consistently, posting content during the offseason. I think maybe I'm looking for like 2 or 3 videos per week. Not sure if I'll have like an actual schedule of what days I'll upload. But, I will be posting some content, or at least I hope to. And so, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be posting videos. And with that, that is it for this video. That is it for this season. Thank you so much for watching. Click like if you enjoyed. Click subscribe if you really enjoyed. Follow my Instagram, my Twitter. Links in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.